and welcome to your real estate journey, expert tips for buyers and sellers. I am Dolly Lopez, a realtor and broker in the state of Florida and Kentucky. In this podcast, we will guide you and teach you strategies and provide you with advices to make informed decisions while you're taking the real estate journey. Today, like every Thursday, I am joined by one of my favorite attorneys, Valerie. Valerie, how are you? Welcome.
I'm good. I'm good, Dolly. Thank you so much for having me. Super excited to be here with you today and your followers to talk about real estate, right? It's a never changing market. So I'm so happy to be here talking to you guys.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And today I want to talk about HOAs. So, what are the secrets, things that are hidden about HOAs and people that are looking to buy a property that it's in an HOA,
Right.
they should know.
Right.
So, hit me with your best thing. Well, just start with one.
so
What are
um
the things that they should definitely know and be aware of?
so first you need to be aware first and foremost whether or not the property is an association, right? So you can guarantee that if you're buying a townhouse or if you're buying an apartment, it's going to be a part of the association. I can guarantee you 100%. If you're buying a property and in order to get access to that property, you have to go through a gate or you have to go through security, you can already start to know, this property is probably part of an association. So it's very important to know whether, like, where you're making your offer and to who you're making your offer. And if it's a property that belongs to an association, what is it that you want that property for? Do you want that property as an investment property? Are you intending to rent it? Do you want to rent it long term? Do you want to rent it like VRBO or Airbnb with our shorter term rentals? That's also very important to know whether associations are going to allow that. There are a lot of associations, especially here in Miami and in the Florida Keys as well, that restrict the amount of time that you can rent. For instance, it doesn't allow you to do short term rentals, it doesn't allow you to do day to day week rentals. A lot of the associations will require at minimum 6 months rent, sometimes 9 months. And on top of restricting the amount of time that you can rent the property, it'll also restrict on you on who can be a tenant, right? So it's going to require that your tenant get approved by the association. Same way you're going to get approved when you purchase it, right? So it's also super important that you know that. Super important to know what are the purposes behind buying this property. Why are we getting it? What are our intentions? How are we going to use it? Can we use it in the way that we want to be using it?
Exactly. And whenever we're talking about short-term rentals and long-term rentals, we have to keep in mind that some counties do restrict that as well. But in
Yes,
addition to the restriction of those counties, the HOA can also restrict that even further
of
if they
course.
want to. So it's very important, as you said, Valerie, to know that exactly what you want. Because if you want this property and eventually you want to do Airbnb in a portion of your house or the
Hmm.
entire property, the HOA might restrict that. For
Right.
example, personal, where I live, they only allow up to 9 months. The shortest term you can rent it for is 9 months. So I won't be able to do an Airbnb in it.
Yeah.
And even though I have done the numbers, I'm like, oh, this would be a great property for it. But
Yeah.
this doesn't allow me.
Yeah.
So you have to definitely keep that in mind.
A
What
hundred percent.
else, Valerie? What else should we keep in mind whenever we're looking into an HOA?
So another thing to keep in mind also is whether or not there's going to be a special assessment that the association is going to be charging that unit, that specific property, that apartment, that townhouse, whatever it is that you're purchasing. And why it's so important is because special assessments can range in pricing, right? You can have a small special assessment, maybe it's only $200-300, but then we have special assessments that range three, four, five, $6,000. So it's very important that we find out, through your realtors, use your resources behind you, use the title company that you intend to use your realtor, ask your realtor, hey, listen, is there a special assessment? Like, can we find that out? And we can. Dolly will be more than happy to communicate with the selling agent, and Dolly will find out through the seller themselves. Do you guys, not only is there a special assessment, but do you know of maybe an upcoming special assessment?
No,
Because
I
that's
would even
also,
call the HOA myself.
yeah,
I need to make sure that my client is very aware of what they're getting themselves into.
correct.
And sometimes, the HOA might know that their special assessment is
Right.
coming, but they haven't informed the current owners.
Right.
Therefore, I always call not only the listing agent to find out through the seller, but also contact the HOA themselves.
Yes.
Ask them. So, as you said, use your resources. You have
Use your resources, right? Use your resources to find out, because you don't want to be in a position where a week from closing we find out there's a special assessment that's due, and now we're stuck with, whoa, okay, there's a $4,000 special assessment. Who's gonna pay it? Is it buyer? Is it seller? Are we splitting it? Are we dividing it some special way? Am I paying as a buyer? Am I going to be paying after I close and the seller has to pay before? So it's very important that we iron out these little details before the closing, before we get to the closing date, so there's no issues. So there's a smooth sale when it comes to the closing table.
Exactly. So I completely agree with you on that. What would be one more thing that you would suggest? Not suggest, but that you would say it's fairly hidden and not a
Right.
lot. We haven't, people don't speak about it as much.
Right. So something to know about associations is they can assign violations to the unit, to the property, right? Because you're not complying with their rules and regulations. And that violation, you won't even know about it until the title company, the attorney that's representing you, hopefully in the situation, VPP law firm, until we order the estoppel, right? We will order the estoppel against the association. The association will then deliver to me the estoppel. The estoppel tells me everything I need to know about this unit and its relation to the association. How much they pay monthly, if there's any late fees that are associated, if they fail to make any prior payments, if there's any kind of violation on the property pursuant to the association rules and regulations. For instance, one of the violations that I've seen often are the grass isn't cut to the standard, right? That's something that needs to be fixed. Or, and more importantly, and this one's a much bigger one, is the property is not in the right color, right? The house or the townhouse is not painted in the exterior in the correct color approved by
And
the
there are
association.
approved colors that the association would allow.
Right.
So what happens then?
So what happens in that kind of situation is, me as your title company, I've already gone alert, okay, there's a violation. I'll immediately contact Dolly, right? And Dolly and I will have a conversation, and I'll tell her, listen, this is a problem. We got this association. Let's fix it. This violation be pursuant to the estoppel. Let's fix it. And so now is when we start to figure out who's going to fix it. Are we going to put it on the seller to fix? Is the seller going to give us a credit and we're going to fix it? And sometimes these violations, like the painting of the property, can be quite expensive, because if you're looking at a 5-bedroom property, 5-bedroom, 3-bathroom, that can probably cost you a few $1,000s just to paint that property back to the color that it needs to be painted. So it's very, very, very important that you know these types of rules and regulations and restrictions that an association is going to have, and that you hire Dolly, who knows what she's doing. Hire a realtor who knows what she's doing. She knows how to negotiate this. She knows how to prepare for this. When she knows this property is an association, perfect. I already know the questions I need to ask. I already am prepared for my buyer. I know what to prepare them for. Or if it's a seller, we'll know how to prepare the seller for selling a property within an association.
I am actually helping a client right now who's a realtor. I am helping another realtor purchase their home because they just don't practice it.
Right.
They don't practice, and we know this is one of the biggest investments that we will make. And I wanted to go back to the violations. What happens if you have a violation and the associations would give you fees, and you decide, I'm not going to pay them because I'm not going to paint my house, because I'm not going to do this.
I don't want to. That's not the color I wanted, and I'm not going to do it.
Exactly. So what happens then?
So we're looking at a foreclosure action. So we're actually looking where the association has the right to foreclose against your property to recover the fees that you have not paid them. And what's important to know is, not only are they going to be recovering the fees that you failed to pay, you're also going to be paying them the attorney's fees and costs that your association has to pay in order to bring this foreclosure action against you. Meaning, if they have to hire an attorney, which they will, you'll pay those attorney's fees. All the costs they had to do in order to register a complaint and file the complaint with the court and get a court number, that's also a fee that you're going to have to pay them back for. So it could be a lot more costly for you to ignore a fee than for you to just accept it. pay it, and move
Yeah,
on.
and that's it. So, guys, an HOA, an association, can and will foreclose on your property.
Yes.
You can continue to pay your mortgage to the lender. It has nothing to do with the lender's payment. They can still foreclose on your property. And it's very important for you to be aware of that,
Yeah.
because it will happen if you, if you fail to pay a fee.
Right.
Actually, we were talking earlier. I had a client who actually called me, and just not a client, she's just somebody that follows me through YouTube.
Acquaintance. Mhm.
And she said, Dolly, I am in a and I'm pre-foreclosure. I got this, but I don't know what it's for. What's going on? I don't owe anything on my property. I don't own it, I own the house free and clear. And whenever we did some digging, it was the HOA over 600, $260. She just didn't see it. It was her second property. She never received the mail, at least not that mail where she needed to
Right.
pay. Um, and now she was in foreclosure proceedings.
So,
So
two things that are super important about that story that I want to bring out to our viewers and those who are watching us. Foreclosures are not the same as they were 20 years ago. You know, people think, oh, but in 2006, 2007, 2008, people went 10 years without paying and they were fine. And it took 10 years to foreclose on their property. It took 15 years. Not anymore. Not anymore. Courts are now prepared. There's actually a division within our court system that handles just foreclosures. So it's very important to know that these foreclosures actions are no longer taking years, they're taking months. They're taking months and they can happen quite quickly. And before you even know it, you have someone knocking on your door, will be a sheriff telling you have to leave because the house has not been purchased by somebody else in a foreclosure sale. So it's very important you know that. And secondly, if you're using this property as an investment or you bought it for a cousin or an aunt or someone else is living in the property and not you, make sure that the association has the right contact information for you. Make sure they have your right phone number, their right email, your right address, so that in situations like these, where they need to notify you of a violation with the property, or they need to notify you of a special assessment that's coming, or they need to notify you that they've never received the monthly payment or that you're late on your payment. All that information is so crucial to know so that it doesn't spiral out of control. So make sure that the association for the property that you're purchasing has the right information, contact information from you.
good. So let's talk briefly before we end up this
Mhm.
episode. Uh, Properties that are seniors, 55 and
Yes.
older. How do they work?
Yes.
And what are something to know about it?
So with those are also subject to associations, right? Because senior homes they have an association that is very strict. So we've had clients before that come to come here for a consultation and they tell us, but I was approved. I'm 55. I was approved. Yes, 100% you were approved. You can live in the property, but not your son who's 30 or your daughter who's 25 or your cousin or a friend that came from Cuba or a friend that's visiting you for X amount of time. None of those people were approved. So, especially with associations for 55 and older, you're not allowed to have, most of the time, this is dependent on the association, but I can tell you 99% of the time, you're not allowed to have extended visitors. You're not allowed to have people who are going to be staying with you longer than a day or two. Why? Because it's specific to senior living. It's specific to those who are 55 and older. So everyone that's living in that property must be approved by the association and must be 55 or older. So that's very important to know.
And I'll share a story. I have a client who's actually looking for a property right now because she owns a trailer,
Mhm.
but the trailer is for 55 and over. The son came from moved in with her,
Mhm.
and they are giving her such a hard time. He needs to go. But
Yeah.
not only that, he came with a wife
And a kid.
pregnant. So they're kicking them out, and it's so sad. But at the end of the day, they purchased this trailer. It's in a
Yeah.
trailer park, and they need to go. So
Yeah.
they're getting that trailer park sold. I normally don't do
Yeah.
trailers, but we are purchasing a house with or a land. We're looking at both just because they are not allowed to have people over.
Correct.
And she thought, I'm over 55, my husband is over 55, we're good. Yeah, no grandkids, no,
No, unfortunately, you're not good.
no. So it's very important to keep that in mind.
Yes.
Valerie, thank you so much for sharing your time with us. Thank you guys for watching our channel. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok channels, so you won't miss any episodes. Please share this information with your friends and colleagues who might also benefit from it. Thank you guys, and I will see you next week.